My name is Scott Yamamura, and I am an author and coach of Financial Epiphany. Invest in yourself, that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. I care about you as students, and I wasn't told what I'm about to share with you tonight, but I wish I had. So money is a personal thing. I'm going to be teaching about 3 simple rules of thumb tonight that generally work. But in the end, you want to customize your situation, maybe see a professional financial advisor to get that optimized for you. For decades, if people asked me, what's the last book you read? I would have said, in college. I haven't read a book for decades. I would never have written one. What would cause me to write a finance book and spend 3 years doing that? Something must have totally disrupted my life to do that. So take a look at this timeline here, right? 22 years old, 32, 42, 52, 62. The average career length. What I started to hear from people retiring, 62, was, I wish I could go back and do this money thing all over again. And the funny thing was, the 52-year-olds were saying, I should have saved more earlier. And then the 42-year-olds were also saying, if I knew then what I know now, I would have done things way differently. So I kept hearing these same things, but everything looks really good, the nice cars and the vacations and the Instagram lives. But really what I started noticing from most adults is that we weren't any good with money. And we all wished we could go back and do it over again. So there's something magical about this age, 22. And the reason why I'm here is because people kept telling me, you got to tell the younger folks before they start working. Instead of waiting until we've done the wrong thing and never heard about money, and then we finally got to figure it out, and we're all saying, we wish we could do it over again. So that's why I'm here tonight, right? If I could go back in time and tell myself this message, this is what I would tell myself. Money is big. The average person earns about $2 million across their lifetime, and they make 40,000 financial transactions. That's about 2 financial transactions per day on average. So money is very big. Think about your schooling. You might do schooling for about 18 years of your life. You might work for about 40 years. But money, you're going to spend across probably about 60 of your years, not counting the early years. That's bigger than any of those other things. Why aren't we learning about this? It's such a big deal. And once again, you're finance and marketing people, and I'm a marketer. I'm here because I care about you and your future, and I want to plant this idea with you. Money is so big, it could fill a very thick instruction booklet. And who likes reading an instruction booklet before they start using their new phone or whatever new product? Like, we don't like that. We're not going to flip through this thing. We're excited and we want to use that new product that we just got, right? What we're doing tonight is I've figured out just 3 things that you need to know to really do well with finances in your life, okay? So quick start guide. I've discovered these cheat codes that I've used and continue to use, and I've been spreading the word about it. So I was at the University of Washington. Johnson's back there working the cameras. He works for University of Washington. Went down to Las Vegas and did a news show a couple weeks ago, and have been going to schools and churches and nonprofits just to keep sharing this simple message, because that's really all we need to hear. We don't need to hear complex, remember this right here, and do nothing and be frozen with analysis paralysis. We actually just need it simple so that we do something about it, because that's what matters here. Back to something that looks like an instruction booklet. These 3 columns, they talk about when you might start your career. Okay, that's the first column. The second one is a length of a career. And the third one is how much money might multiply or grow over time. And each one of these columns has about 20 sets of numbers. That equals 8,000 combinations right there. That's just over our heads, overwhelming. We need to make this really simple. So we're going to look at just the most simple, most common solution to money, which is most people start a career around age 22 or so when you graduate college. Most people work a 40-year career. Could be 39, could be 41. We're going to just state 40 here. And 7.2 is actually a nice number for money to multiply. If money grows by about 7.2% per year, it leads to the easiest math. And that's why we're going to go by this number, so that you can remember this and use this rule of thumb for the rest of your life. Okay? With those 3 things set, we've made money freeze. It's no longer too much for us. It's no longer intimidating and overwhelming. We've chosen this is the view of money we are going to look at. Another thing is, how do you get that 7.2%? How do you get money to grow at that rate per year? The most common ways to invest money and get it to grow are a retirement account and using something like index funds, which is a bundle of stocks or bonds. So we'll get more into those details later. Right now, we're staying simple because I want you to only understand your multiplying power that you have. Given those things, if someone was to invest $1,000 in, say, an investment account, it's growing at that rate we just talked about, what's happening? Well, 10 years later, it just doubled on its own. You didn't do a thing else. You put in $1,000 in, you just didn't do anything. It's coming out as $2,000, okay? That right there is the first, what I call financial epiphany. Every single investment of money you make, say you put in $100 one day, $1,000 another day, $500, $20, 10 years later, if it's growing at 7.2, it's double, okay? That is the first foundation of money we want to remember, that money can generally double every 10 years. Now that we know that, we can build upon that. There's two other epiphanies. So if money's doubling every 10 years, generally speaking, we can start really making a plan for this. So what happens if you don't touch it another 10 years? Well, double, right? It's just doubled again. You haven't done anything. You wait 10 more years, doubles again to 8,000. You wait 10 more years, you haven't touched it. Just that initial $1,000 turned to $16,000 on its own. So over 40 years, this is what is generally happening with that 7.2%, a very common rate of return on money. All right, so now we kind of have an idea about what commonly happens, right? So starting to make sense to invest at the beginning because you have 40 years till you're going to access it, make everything in the middle disappear, and you see the input, every $1,000 you invest at the beginning of your career turns to about $16,000 in the end. To simplify, that's a multiple of 16. I'm a saver, so this to me looks exciting. Put some money in, wait 40 years, and then it's grown by 16 times. I like that. But guess what? Most people actually don't because we want immediate gratification, right? You're marketers. You want to tell people you want this now, right? People will do that. They'll see something, they want to buy it right away, or they don't want to save because it's going to take a long time for something to happen. All the excitement's at the end. So I thought to myself, what if we flipped this chart? This changes everything. Now, all of a sudden, this is no longer about money growing, an object growing. This is about us. It becomes about our multiplying power. So think about it this way. You have this multiplying power of 16, and you can see that it's diminishing over time, right? When we flip the chart like this, it's telling us when they say save early, take advantage of compound interest, which is the growth of money. Now this is about you. It's not about money growing. This is about you having a multiplying power that diminishes over time, much more like athletics. NFL football players or Olympic ice skaters or gymnasts, you're going to hit your peak somewhere around your 20s. That's where a peak is for a lot of professional sports. And then, as you know, it diminishes. And money is actually the same way. You may have thought the great myth. I did. Oh, I'll wait till I get older. I'll wait till I make more money. I'll wait till I get promoted. I'll wait till I'm older and wiser. Then I'll think about money, right? That's a very common myth. It's actually the opposite. You probably didn't think about it, but you have the most multiplying power now. But because money takes time to grow, it makes sense, right? You have the most multiplying power now, even more so than someone like me who's very savvy at investing. All right, it's more like athletics. This is breaking the myth, okay? It's not about wait till later and you'll get good at this later. You actually are the best at multiplying money now. I call that the power of 16. You start your career with generally about this multiplying power of 16, right? And that's good to know. Now you have a number to be thinking about. Okay, I can multiply money by about 16 if it's doing a normal thing. So here we go with this graph again. So what's happening? We're going to put numbers back onto this. What's happening 10 years later? So 22 is when you have the multiplying power of 16 generally. 10 years later, it halves, the multiplying power of 8. You just lose half your multiplying power after 10 years. The next 10 years, it halves again, the multiplying power of 4. And then in your early 50s, the multiplying power of 2. And then in your early 60s, your golden years. That's when you retire, take it easy, kick back, right? Enjoy the fruits of your labor. So let's put those numbers back on, the ages. You have an ability, like athletic ability with money, and it diminishes with time. So don't wait if you don't have to. And we'll get into this. Third epiphany, your multiplying power halves every 10 years. This creates a sense of urgency, right? It tells you, oh, I really should act earlier. A financial advisor friend of mine who manages money for pretty wealthy people, she says your first 10 years of investing is worth your last 30. And most people don't take advantage of the first 10 years. Most of us around middle age start thinking about money then, right? When your kids got to go to college, you've got to think about retiring, you might need to take care of your parents. Reviewing the 3 financial epiphanies, money can double every 10 years, every single investment you make. You start your career with the power of 16 to multiply money, and the 3rd epiphany is your multiplying power halves every 10 years. Okay, so that's just reviewing that. But let's put this into practice a little bit. Okay, so the power of 16, what does that really feel like? Who is working a part-time job here? Anybody working part-time job? Okay, all right. So imagine you worked a whole week and you got paid for that week, right? That's what you signed up for. But let's say you worked a week of work and you got paid double. Your boss just said, nice job, I'm just gonna be nice, here's twice the amount of money. You would be ecstatic, right? Getting paid double. But what if you worked that week of work and had the power of 16? That's like working a week of work and getting paid for 4 months. And let's say you worked another week of work and got paid another 4 months. And that is what this power of 16 is. So I really wanna let you know how powerful your leverage is early on, okay? And then this power of 8. I met with a 32-year-old and he had some money laying around and it wasn't earning anything. So I talked to him about, hey, why don't you invest the money where it grows at this 7.2% or so? That actually created about $200,000 for him by choosing to do that. And he had the power of 8, so the money was gonna multiply by 8 times. And then I met with a couple in their early 40s. And they weren't really doing much with retirement. And when I talked about they had the power of 4, the power to multiply money by 4 times, they both maxed out their retirement accounts because they knew it could multiply by 4 times. And then a friend of mine in his early 50s came to me and said, wow, I have the multiplying power of 2 with money. I'll invest and it'll double by the time I retire. That's great. But you know what else he did? He went back and he talked to his daughter who was just graduating college and told her, you have this multiplying power of 16, let's get your retirement account set up right away. At 62, let me tell you a little story, the story of Ernie. I went to Sierra Leone, West Africa. Been there a couple times. And so I went with this organization that builds schools and churches and clinics for people that couldn't afford any of that there. It's one of the poorest countries in the world. And I filmed a video and came back and went to this fundraising breakfast. And they sat me near the front. I was like, what am I doing near the front? And I sat next to this tall guy, Ernie, who was getting himself around with a cane. He was probably 70 years old. I'm like, this is assigned seating. What am I doing here sitting next to this guy? What do we have in common? Turns out Ernie had paid for my trip to go. And this was a 100-hour long project for shooting and editing. He paid for the cost of the video too. And then when the video showed, he leans over to me and he's like, Scott, he's like, that's the first time I've seen this video. He said, my wife and I, when we were driving here, we decided how much we were gonna give. But he says, don't tell my wife, I just doubled it. He couldn't go to Sierra Leone himself, boots on the ground with his cane, but he sent me to do it. And I wanted to be more like Ernie after I saw someone like him doing what he did for me. He had figured out money and he had resources to fund his purpose. There's a picture captured from some video. The last trip I went to Sierra Leone was a number of months ago. I took my son and we filmed a video out there together this time. Picture at the upper right is an organization that does mentorship, it's Young Life. The fellow at the lower left, he was homeless and didn't have a job. And his 2 kids were so traumatized before being homeless, they didn't speak for years. And this organization locally helped house him for a year and got him educated in welding. And as he started working and welding and able to support his own household, his kids started speaking again. Amazing story. And then the last little girl in the middle there, at the bottom right, she had swallowed a quarter and she had that stuck in her throat. And the family took her to Children's Hospital and it was an emergency and they didn't have the money to pay for this quarter to be removed. But it got paid for because people raise money and give it to Children's Hospital to take care of people. So we did a video on her story as well. So that's what I like to do now. Things like this, right? And have the freedom to do so because the money part is no longer an issue at some point. If you start early, then you can fund your purpose. There's a lot of freedom in that. And I want you to be able to go out there and have this freedom and this peace with money. Tonight is about recognizing your multiplying power. Thank you very much.